is very beautiful. And like, you just look like you would be the guy who come over and you're dressed that way. But yeah,
wow.
this is,
I feel like I should be
yeah.
working in like the Amalfi Coast or something then. If
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
yeah. You
case, if you
definitely
think I'm
look.
a
You're very.
wingman.
It's like
Yeah.
a Amalfi Coast edition of Slip and Jimmy. And with that, this is Dad's
USD
bet.
or Euro.
What a cold open. This
Yeah.
is Dad's bet baseball. I am Adam Rosenberg. I am joined as always by CJ Buskey, aka Slip and Jimmy. And we have a really good show today. We got my friend Andrew Margolick, who who played pro ball and can talk some smack and does not like relievers. So we are doing a Monday show, and I think I just want to jump right ahead and I want to talk about who saved or ruined your weekend. And I would love to jump up and tell you who kind of saved my weekend after I had a horrendous Sunday.
Please.
So
yeah, I would love to hear it. And I think I know who this may be.
Friend of the program who's coming back on Friday. Our first two-time guest, Colby Marchio, chiming in right away with a burger recipe I sent him that I found online like 15 years ago, telling me that the burgers slapped. He might also be talking about Jake Burger. Colby I
thought he was. Did we have a burger home run?
I don't know. Well, actually,
drove in the winning run the other day.
Not to get off topic, but I was like, why is the card so mid today? And Colby, you can back me up here. All the teams that are fun to bet on home runs are not playing today. The Yankees, the Rangers, the Blue Jays, the Braves. Like, none of those teams are playing today.
I don't know
so
if the Rangers
very
are fun to bet home runs.
It's a lot of guys. It was all these guys who were like, I'm not good enough, so I'm going to have an opener. It was like watching literally every game might as well be the Tigers and the Cardinals, but I digress. So
it's hard to top rivalry weekend when you get, the tough rivalries like the Red Sox and the Braves, or the
which
Tigers
was
and the Blue Jays.
so bizarre. So bizarre. Also, I love MLB, but nobody knew it was rivalry weekend. It's not. You're not the ACC.
Can we just play divisional weekend and call it rivalry weekend, because that's really all that anybody cares about?
It's so silly. Players weekend. Anyway, all right. So look, I had a horrendous Sunday. I won my first two bets, and then I proceeded to lose the next 12. And then it was not good. I mean, it's been a great month, but it was really not good. And then I woke up this morning to news that I'm going to say saved my weekend. And it was that Jared Jones is finally having Tommy John surgery. And I say, so it's saving because we're not going to lose on bets that would have lost. We had him for K leader. We had him for 160 Ks. And the reason why I'm saying finally, CJ, this is your team. So maybe you would like to jump in on the why finally is the key word here and how that makes you feel.
Well, this is the team of my childhood. So this is, I mean, obviously I well-known Mets fan on this this podcast, but I mean, the Pirates are the team that I just love to continue to hate and just completely trash that organization because of their owner in Bob Nutting and how he runs it. So I want to point out, I texted you this. I think actually we might have put this in the Discord. He was diagnosed with arm soreness on March 26th. What day is today, Adam?
It is May 19th.
May 19th. And now the club decides, hey, maybe he actually should be getting Tommy John surgery. So we waited nearly 2 months for this diagnosis. 2 months also that we had to basically sit there and say that he's going to come back for some meaningless start in probably July or August, immediately get sore within the first couple of innings that he throws, and then we would have had to basically pay out the entire
thing. It was like 3 minutes worth of liability. Because we were very high on Jared Jones. Jared Jones is still high on Jared Jones, by the way. He's built like Spencer Strider. Like Jared Jones is very good.
I mean, I believe had a couple of conversations last summer where we're saying, hey, is Jared Jones at least for a strikeout perspective, is his ceiling higher?
Yeah, we added him last summer. He was on our first list of guys we will look at next year. He was the first one.
Yeah, so that's my rant is just really that the Pirates take 2 months. Again, your team is 16? You just got swept by the Phillies. You had Skeens pitch a complete game and lose
and
to
lost
a rookie,
to a rookie who got sent down, who
know?
was only starting. The only reason why Mick Abel was starting is so they could show him off so they could trade for Ryan Helsley.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The only
This
reason he
was a
started.
show
There's
game for
no
him
other
just
reason
to
that he
get
started
traded.
because you could have done a
Yeah.
bullpen game. You could have done. I guess I know Alvarado's hurt. All that we can talk about that in a bit. But Alvarado got suspended. But literally the only reason he started was to prove that he is like good enough that they now have all the leverage in any trade that they want to make with that guy.
Yeah, but I guess
Great.
belatedly props to the Pirates organization for saving our ass and
Yes,
getting
okay,
us
a
to
little bit.
avoid all of these bets. I also want to talk about somebody this weekend that absolutely killed me.
Killed both of our weekends.
Killed both of our
led to
weekends,
this.
and hopefully I'm going to be really, really mad if it kills probably my favorite batter future that we have out there, which is to lead the league in RBIs, and that is the Giants' Wilmer Flores. I can't stand this guy. So he's a former Met. One of my favorite memories, by the way, of going to a Mets game was Wilmer Flores hitting a walk-off home run in 2017. My wife, a couple of friends, and I were at that game. It was some meaningless game in July, but it was awesome. It was like bottom of the ninth. He hit like a 3-run home run. They were down 2. Go look it up. But anyways, he leaves the Mets. This guy has a wins above replacement. His career average, by the way, is less than half a win, which is, by the way, the same that he has this season. Javi Baez, hopefully future friend of the show, the magician, nearly triple that wins above replacement. Judge has 8 times that. His career high right now is 71 RBIs, and yet he has 42. And my favorite, actually not my favorite, the thing that makes me the most mad, as you know, I'm obviously very much a StatCast. I'm looking at a lot of more of the advanced stuff. Third percentile in EV right now. That is the same as Luis Arias, Steven Kwan, and current Pirate Adam Frazier. And yet he has 10 home runs. Explain that to me.
He's basically the greatest contact hitter in the game right now. I didn't even think about the RBI stuff. I was more commenting that we had neither team to 5 in one of the games that he decided to hit like a 3-run homer,
8
late
RBIs.
Yeah, yes. 8 RBIs. And then he killed an under. He killed 2 unders for me on swings, and he killed on Friday and Saturday. And
what was the one too? He killed us on, I think it was Sunday. Where didn't he have a walk? He like walked in the final run.
Oh yeah. He had he's just bad. He's on my list. I didn't realize, by the way, that him and Conforto were both on that. So both former Mets were on that team. I didn't, from the same era too.
Yeah. He was brought up in the organization.
He's old. He's really
famously known for he was traded and then not traded in the middle of the game, and he broke down crying during that game. So maybe as a person, he's a good guy.
Roki
but
Sasaki
I just want to point out this guy is batting 7th in the order, and he has 42 RBIs. Just, I love baseball for a million reasons. This is one that I don't. That the variance with Wilmer Flores is just this crazy. So that does kind of, lead me into another thing I wanted to bring up to you on this Monday evening, which is he's batting 7th in the order, right? So, obviously you and I, one of our favorite things to cap is betting home runs. And I'm usually going to be very hesitant if I'm seeing a guy that's going to be batting towards the bottom of the order, especially once you're getting past the 6 hole, right? You're getting into the 7, 8, and 9. Yep. You are at that
especially
point, especially at home. At that point, you are maybe getting 4 plate appearances. You'll get 3, but you may not even get 3, to be honest, depending on how the game is. But especially if there's a platoon. So the reason I want to bring this up was because I was texting you about this Saturday where I wanted to bet Rafael on the Red Sox. Had some great numbers coming in. He had been looking awesome from a hard hit, a barrel perspective. And he's up against Kenny Powers himself, Grant Holmes, on the Braves, who is very well known for giving up a lot of home runs. Go to look at his home run price. It's plus 680. Rafael is batting 9th in the order. So I'm betting plus 680 for maybe 2 plate appearances against Grant Holmes. And the reason I bring this up, and I'll let you kind of riff on more on this, is also why you need to actually watch the games, is when you are betting somebody that is going to be batting that late in the order, especially if you want them to get something like a over their total bases or home run, just wait to bet it live, because you're going to get a much better price if you're betting something like Rafaela next plate appearance, extra base hit. You're going to get, right now, you could literally get that for 8-1. So you could bet those two at 8-1 for lower risk, and you're still basically getting the same exact cap that you would have had pregame by betting it against the starter when you're only going to get those limited plate appearances.
Yep. No, I mean, look, there is a world where you can just look at everything and say, I'm betting the numbers, I'm not betting the players. But especially on pitching and some of these things is watching the games, because you have to watch the games of the players that you're betting on. You have to, or at least like have seen something with them. Grant Holmes is a really, really good example, because he is a guy who you can, or actually, you know what, a better example that I'll use, a great example that I will use is, because I love using the example, is Dean Kramer. As always, I have a geopolitical cap on him, which came through again today. That cap is whenever Israel does a military exercise, Dean Kramer, who is Israeli, gets very this is a fact. He's Israeli, and he
could
gets
also
very
be
distracted.
that he stinks, but yes, yeah.
No, because there was the Israel called off a military exercise, and he threw like 7 shutout innings. But my point is that you have to watch this guy, because what he does is he labored in his last start. He also labored in his last start, and you could see him throw like 103 pitches. And if you're not looking and watching these things, you can see guys that are efficiently getting through 103 pitches. You can see guys who are also pitching with leads and things that happen and change with them when they're pitching. Ben Brown is a really good example that I've talked about with you, and we're going to talk about him and this concept later in the week. Ben Brown has the most run support of any player in the league. He pitches effectively what I call downhill, which means that he can pitch loose. He's got a lead coming out of the gate. He doesn't really have to keep his team in it. He can kind of do whatever. You don't know that unless you watch him pitch, and you can see that he pitches loose whenever he has the lead, and you can see that he tightens up whenever a game is tied, which then happened today and things blew up, or his team is from behind. He does not do that well. These are nuances that you just cannot pick up unless you watch the games. And I'm not saying, you got to watch every single game that's out there, but MLB TV was one of the greatest investments that I made. And if you're super cheap, YouTube just Google the player on YouTube and just look at a clip from last starts, or just look at other things. You can see certain things with players on just, why do people always steal in Cabrera? I don't know. Maybe it's because his kick is so high, and because it takes a long time in his windup and do things. These are all things. If you watch the games, you start to notice that. If you also get a sense of managerial tendencies, stuff like that, there's a lot of nuances I find, especially with pitchers. And Andrew, if he remembers that he's coming on, when he comes on, we can talk a little bit more. We can talk a little bit more about it. But yeah, I completely agree with this. It's just you got to watch some of the games, and that's a real interesting one that you brought up, because on Rafaela, who's the other guy on the Red Sox that only played Ryan Schneider or whatever, right? There's 2 guys with goofy names that are like super platoon guys. And like Johan Rojas on the Phillies, it's like the same deal. So you gotta.
The other thing too with so I'm glad you brought up MLB TV. This is the Dad's podcast. We know that, especially if you have young kids, your time is extremely limited. And if you're listening to this and you're going, okay, I bet baseball, when am I actually going to have time to watch a lot of these games? First thing that I would recommend that you do, it's 10 minutes every day. I do it every morning. It's on the MLB app. Just go watch the Fastcast from yesterday's games.
Fastcast is great.
Fastcast is tremendous. It gives you all basically like the 3 to 4 main highlights of every game. And sure, like a lot of them are going to show home runs, but especially if you're capping home runs and you start to kind of see, for example, like back to that first opening weekend series with the Yankees and the Brewers, a lot of kind of fugazi home runs that the Yankees hit in those first couple of games, just based on the weather conditions that weekend. You would be able to pick up
I
on
mean,
that by just
Austin Wells
watching.
being Aaron
Right.
Judge, like
And Volpe, basically that same weekend too. But Fastcast to me, like every morning when I'm, if I go, for example, if I'm just feeding my son, I need something just to like quickly catch me up on the games if I didn't get to see anything the previous night. To me, that's a great resource. The other thing I would say is that what's also important about so back to Kenny Powers, aka Grant Holmes, I actually capped his over outs on Saturday, which cashed just because I thought this is maybe his last chance to start for the Braves. Like this might actually be his last time to even
really?
give a
Wait,
quality
tell me more
start
on that.
because so Smith Schwarber or whatever for the Braves,
Yeah.
it looks like once they pull back Strider, they're gonna have to send somebody back. And so
Okay.
Holmes apparently is the leader in the clubhouse for that. That's according to what I heard.
I
From
thought that was
Eno
going to be
last week.
Elder.
So Holmes was at least rumored to that. So I was going into Saturday saying, hey, Holmes knows that he might be on the hot seat. He might not have a job. This might be his last chance to actually give a good start for the Braves. So back to that Rafaela cap. Hey, he's batting towards the end of the order. If you can see a starter that is, looking actually quite good, their command's really good. They seem to be at least kind of controlling the game. That's another reason watching the games is going to really matter because you could get to the end of that plate appearance and go, you know what? It's actually not worth a bet. Holmes actually looks like he has decent stuff tonight. And now you've just saved yourself betting a plus 680 prior to the game by just watching a few innings of that game. So there's stuff like this all across the board. I mean, you're going to be able to become a better handicapper. It obviously makes a ton of sense by just following and watching the games, but sometimes we forget about that. We get kind of too lost in just looking at the Baseball Savant or the Fangraphs page and forgetting to actually watch what's going on in the game. And I'm sure Andrew will have a lot to say about that too.
He also has really good stories about it. So we're gonna bring Andrew in 1 minute. The last thing I want to say on this is that or we brought him in now. That's fine. But Andrew, hey Andrew, I'm gonna. This is Andrew's here. Andrew's here just smiling like he's gonna slap me. So the one thing that I want to say is the other thing that you can all read is Jeff Zimmerman does a news and notes roundup on Fangraphs. That if you are like all of us and you are a parent and you do not have time to watch all the games, it is a very good way to kind of go through. I saw Taylor had made a comment, and I was talking to him this earlier about JT Ginn. Part of the reason why I'm on JT Ginn's under K's. JT Ginn is about to tear his UCL, and he was put on the IL for 10 days because his elbow got inflamed. They wrote about it, and they didn't give him like a rehab start. They didn't even give him an injection, and they have him on a 65 pitch count tonight. So tonight, if you want to watch something fun, elbow's probably going to blow out against the Angels tonight. It's going to be pretty wild. I took his under 4.5 Ks. That being said, Andrew Margolick, really, really good buddy of mine. Also, pro ball player. You can describe pro as ever you want it. Andrew, thanks for coming in. Thanks for figuring out how to work the computer and come in.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate it.
Yeah. You don't have to act professional. This is literally like our group chat. All right. Andrew actually taught me the greatest. Andrew and I fight like brothers, but we're like super tight. And I have really good degenerate conversations with his son, Jake, who's awesome. My son's name is Jake. Jake's a great name. The big thing I've learned from you is about capping outs. And you have told me a lot of really important things about watching games. But as a guy who actually played, what are some of the nuances that you know about maybe pitcher tendencies or maybe batter tendencies that you've applied to how you approach betting, pitching, and hitting props?
Yeah, I think it's, starting pitching. I can say I was a starting pitcher my entire life, my entire college pro career. And we are creatures of habit. Like think of an NHL goalie, but 10 times worse. So you're going to do everything to the minute before a start. And if that's thrown off, like you and I have talked about, Adam, if there's a rain delay, if the game's canceled and they're pitching the next day, I run away from that stuff. At the same time, what a lot of people don't know is that the starting pitcher in the first game of a series is he's going to fly ahead of the team. So he's going to be rested. He's going to have his normal routine. So I love taking a starting pitcher in the first game of a series, knowing he's traveled ahead of the team.
Yeah. Last year we killed on this cap so much. And it's funny because it was part of the reason why couple weeks ago why I faded Yamamoto on the same cap, because I read that Yamamoto was flying with the team from Miami, and normally the guys leave. This is like a really good cap, because last year you also, there was you had told me like during a rain delay, like the pitcher, like pitchers who start the next day, like they're home, they're in the hotel, they're not even there, right?
Yes. Yeah, they're gone. So
like Sunday, so you got a Saturday game and there's a rain delay, and you're thinking, oh man, the pitcher's gonna be up, like, and the game doesn't end till 1 a.m. That didn't happen. That pitcher probably went to his hotel and was jerking off and watching movies and eating and doing whatever. He got a good night's sleep and did all those things. These are like key actual tendencies about pitchers and things that I have that I've learned from you and how I cap outs. You've also told me about like, do you want to share with everybody else? I mean, you and I talk about it a lot, but when you're looking at outs, how you look at the guy starting the next day, or like some of those things, like what are some of those things that you kind of look at when you're looking at somebody's on their outs? Because you did this the other day and you actually nailed that 2-1 on Reese.
Yeah, I mean, there's reliever usage, but also the guy who's starting the next day when they have days off, and then looking at guys like Olson's a great example, who he can be really efficient. He can keep his pitch counts down, still get a few strikeouts, but he's a guy that if I'm a manager, I know he can go deep for me when I need him to, and he's not going to labor through it.
And you know that from watching the game too.
Yes.
So it's like, so like, and that's the thing. So Reese Olson was like his 17 and a half, for him to go 6 was 2-1. And I didn't love it. Andrew loved it. I was like, I like it. I don't love it. He ended up hitting it. He also ended up getting hurt, which was hilarious that he cashed that bet and got hurt. And now so that's a hero win in my opinion. Okay. I got one more question. And then I'm gonna turn it to CJ. But so I want to know, like, give me, you and I both constantly say how relievers suck. You know this more than anyone else. Do you have is there a memorable reliever? Who's your least favorite reliever in Major League Baseball of all time? Is there a guy who,
yeah,
I mean,
I'll stick with your Phillies, Mitch Williams.
Really?
I think Williams was like a 1.2 to 1 strikeout to walk ratio. So he would come in and do the same shit that starters could do, which is walk guys. And that bothers me to no end. Rivera was like 4 or 5 to 1. Just context. So, yes, as a starter, if I create my own mess, I want to get out of my own mess. And
yeah, well, tell me more. Tell me more. So, like, do you have like a memorable time that you were doing something and like something blew it?
Me personally?
Tell us. Yeah. Tell us one.
Yeah, I mean, I had a game where I was pitching against actually University of Miami. So college is more the memory there, but they were number 1 in the country. We were up 3-1. And I think it was 2 outs in the 6th, bases loaded, fly ball, left fielder drops the ball, bases. So 4-3. I come out of the game. We end up losing 11-3. So
are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, again, just as a starter, you're like, well, I could have done that. So why'd you take me out? That's every starter wants to stay in longer. So yeah. And that just, I would say, my own personal experience cemented my hatred of relievers, and then just seeing it now, college, pro ball. Yes, they're, again, failed starters, obviously, but just leave the starter in there. I like what the Giants are doing. In fact, saying they're going to have guys go longer.
Yeah. Everyone can do it. Birdsong's going.
They've let Verlander in a couple of times when that's happened too. When he's had some shaky early starts where they've just been like, "All right, we're just gonna, leave you out there." Adam and I like to call that. I think actually, speaking of Grant Holmes earlier, or not Grant Holmes, it was Elder. I think earlier this year, where it was they're leaving him out to die. It's one of those types of games where
I got that from him.
Totally gassed. Oh, so this is from you, Andrew.
Okay.
Well, the rain delay.
And because Andrew will text me on like a Sunday morning.
I actually know the source of this because he brings this up as like one of his main angles all the time. So I'm glad to know that actually somebody smarter than Adam has come up with this.
Andrew.
I was just gonna say, if you look at the Olson start, who Jackson Jobe was behind him. The Tigers are not gonna ever, at least in the near future, tell Jobe, we need you to just stay out there and die. But they would say that to Olson.
So Andrew will last season did this all the time. This season it's been less so because like he's been traveling a lot more than I have, but he'll Sunday morning routinely I would wake up to a text of here's guys that are going to be left out. Here's sacrificial lamb. So and so sacrificial lamb, like Sonny Gray taking one for the Sonny Gray constantly would take one for the team.
Yeah.
And I took this and I ran with this. Yeah, Taylor pointed Max Fried's the ultimate leave them out there to die pitcher. But that elder one is really good because the Braves had it's Braves Open. It was like their third series, and they had used everybody because they were 0-7, and they were just like, guess what? Bryce, you are awful and you have to go 6. And they just they just drilled off him. I think
those are some of my favorite bets, by the way, that catch too. Like it's just going in and knowing that this is what the team was ready to do the entire time. And you're just, the game could be, 13-2 and you're still going to hit the over outs. That one's always a fun cap for me.
Yeah.
Andrew, so let me ask you this as a former pitcher. I need you to rank these 3 movie pitchers in order of who would be the best in Major League Baseball. All right, are you ready for this?
Yep.
So Rick Vaughn, Nick LaRouche, or Henry Rowan-Gardner. Rank those 3.
Who would
there
be
is
the
one
above?
Correct answer to this.
So I would say none of the above, but if I had to rank them, and I'll tell you why, I'll give you a reason.
Yeah, tell us why.
But so none of the above because Ricky Vaughn would fail a drug test and would be out very quick.
His whip would be crazy.
Nick LaRouche, he can't throw a strike, so he's done. And then the other, the kid, that movie bothered me to no end. So
wait, why? That's our intro. So our producer Spencer put those clips on our intro. Wait, why did that bother you?
Well, it's so I have a pet peeve, and so I'll go with Ricky Vaughn because he really looked like a baseball player. Okay,
that is the correct answer, by the way. That is Edwin Diaz in real life, but yeah,
he's Edwin Diaz.
My pet peeve is sports movies, but baseball in general, where it's so obvious that what's happening on the screen is not what would happen in real life. Meaning, these guys throw terribly. I don't want to say throw like a girl, but they throw it's disgusting. So movies like that they bother me. It ruins it for me. So that I don't even know. The Henry Rowan-Gardner. I was like, nah, forget it. Pass.
You mean Andrew? You don't believe that Roy Hobbs couldn't hit, however, like 60 plus home runs with a bullet wound off of the hip that has.
See, that was a good movie. That was a good movie though because he had a good swing, so it looked, it did look okay. Like I'm gonna go off on a tangent, but this is how much that stuff bothers me. The movie Top Gun, the original, okay,
right?
Not a sports movie, but I was like, oh, what a great movie! What a great movie! At the very end, Tom Cruise throws the dog tags into the ocean, and it's the most disgusting throw. And I'm like, this movie's fun. So I'm a purist.
It's so funny because I'll back up Andrew on that because Andrew sent me Andrew will at some point coach my son in baseball. My son's is showing signs of being a lefty, and quote the doctor at his 2-year checkup the other day. Where he's 98th percentile in height and 76th percentile weight, but 98th percentile in height. The guy said, yeah, he's pretty solid. But Andrew sent me this picture of his son, AJ, pitching Little League. And the kid has perfect extension on his arm going all the way through. And it's and now when you think about it, Rowan-Gardner's basically pseudo submarining that, and it's all their pitches are not how mechanically you would ever pitch. So I can relate to this. I can totally get this.
Exactly.
No, this is good. So okay, Andrew, this has been awesome. You are our 3rd straight Chicago guest, so we have to do this. 2016 Cubs team or this year's team. What's kind of the vibe between the two? Does this year feel like it did in 2016, or was that just totally different world? But we basically become a pseudo Cubs fan show. We now have we have PCA MVP tickets, all sorts of stuff. So
it's going to be
tell me what the vibe is on the ground.
Friday, so another Chicago guest coming soon.
That's right. Colby's coming back.
I mean, it really, now it's so much depends on the trade deadline. So what are they going to do at the trade deadline? In terms of hitting, I like this team better. I was never, ever a Jason Hayward guy. You paid him 24 million to motivate the team, which he did, and they won the World Series. So good for him. But, I would take anyone over him on this year's team. So I think hitter wise, they're good. Will they buy at the deadline and get, pitching, which I think they're going to need.
They just signed Kenta Maeda to a minor league deal, which is wild. And finally I'm not a Ben Brown guy. And finally Ben Brown was shown for who he is, which we could talk about in another show. Andrew, do you want people to find you? You can tell everybody where they can find you if you want them to, or do you want to just be an enigma?
Whatever they want. I mean, I think I don't even know my Twitter, honestly. You can put it up. So I'm as you know, I'm very old school. I'm like the rotary phone guy. So.
I know. Well, yeah, but you're a good friend of the program and you're a good friend. So Andrew, thanks for coming by and rapping with us.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So yeah, like that is a great reason to be bothered by a sports movie, is that none of their mechanics are accurate.
I just want to point out, you found a way to bring up the Central Division once again. So
I know.
We gotta have like some sort of ticker in the back on how many consecutive weeks we're going to bring up the Cubs, the Reds, the Guardians, the Tigers, whoever. Funny enough, I almost texted you this week being like, should we talk about the Tigers? We will on Friday. We're going to talk. I keep saying Thursday. On Friday, we're going to talk about the Tigers. We're also going to have another Chicago person on because we'll have Colby back. But the funny thing is I started thinking like, well, why do we keep talking about those divisions? And it's because they're really interesting. Because like the Pirates don't know how to run themselves, and you have, and the Twins just had a 13-game winning streak that I don't think anyone noticed. And by the way, the Royals are like probably 1 5-game winning streak from being in first place. Yeah. And by the way, and the Tigers had the best record in baseball. I throw in the AL West. The more I've thought about this the last few days, I do think the AL West is like a little. We haven't given maybe the AL West a little bit of love that we probably should have. That Ranger. By the way, again, another reason to watch the games. That Rangers Astros series this past weekend was fantastic. Like the pitching matchups that were in that series with Brown going up against DeGrom. Lighter looking awesome. There are some definitely, I think, some interesting storylines. The Mariners, are they going to continue to hit like this? But yeah, there's still a lot to cover in the Central, and we'll probably continue to talk about that for the next 3 to 4 months.
I think it's time to do some dad moves. We can bring in producer Spencer and do that. Oh, we haven't done. We should also give a quick shout out to a friend of the program that we have not talked about all show. Hall of Fame Bets. You can use our code DADS, DADS, and you get 50% off the first month, and you get a week free. I just got a text from Chris, who's E-Bomb on Twitter, and he just said, dude, I used Hall of Fame Bets, and it's really good for my Nerfies. It's a really good starting point because then I use your guys' site for handy graphs and combined the two, and I won. And me, I've just been the only things that I won on Sunday were the team markets that I found on that app, because it's part of my. I'm now also using it when I'm doing a K-prop, because on our site, Handigraphs, you can look at plate appearances, and then I go and I say, well, let me look I can look at what the form is of the whole team. I think in a better way that way. I don't know. Big fan. So go download them.
I think I mentioned this too, by the way. Only app I've seen where they have the bullpen, where you can literally go to each batter and it can see the previous plate appearances against relievers in that bullpen. Really cool. I know it's like super nerdy on that, but that actually does matter for some of the batter props. So go check that out as well.
Like someone who's only getting two plate appearances against a pitcher because they're on a pitch count.
Like Sedano Rafael. Yes.
There you go. All right, cool. So Spencer, fresh off your sty that you healed, what is do you have a dad move of the week?
I don't have a dad move of the week, but I do want to shout out our guest, Andrew. He's like my favorite guest because I'm, as we say, like I'm not a big baseball guy like you guys are. Like obviously I consume it, but not to the level you guys do. But I would want Andrew on my baseball team, man, because he doesn't like relief pitchers either. Because that's like my biggest pet peeve with baseball is the amount of pitching changes. Like, oh, he's left-handed. We got to throw this guy out there. It's like, no, like no matter if you're left-handed, right-handed, the job is still the same. Strike this guy out, get him out any way possible. So I'm Team Andrew over here.
Team Andrew as the dad move of the week. CJ,
Yes.
what do you have?
I mean, I'm Team Andrew as well, but I'll throw in another dad move for you guys, which would be if you are traveling with your kids, if you are going on any sort of road trip, or really just in general, if you drive your kids around a lot, make sure you have a Spotify playlist that is specific to each of them. My daughter, she has right now, there is basically 6 or 7 songs. The only 6 or 7 songs that she wants to listen to, 4 of them are from The Little Mermaid. But I can tell you that when you are driving, there is nothing more annoying than your daughter or your son in the back of the car requesting you to play their songs. And you have to go through Spotify and you have to either search, you have to try and find the album and then go to it. Just as soon as your kids start to know the, again, 3 to 4 songs that they want to listen to, put it into a playlist. It'll become honestly white noise after you play it for about the 80th time on a 2 or 3 hour road trip, but you'll be grateful that you did so.
That is true. Jake has, so we have our playlist for Jake is just, I put on Pearl Jam. He just loves Pearl Jam. And Nora, it's a playlist and it's she just wants to hear the same 3 songs from Cars. And
I put on Rachel Barrels for Roman and he loves it. So
I haven't, neither that the people are like, Daddy, this isn't Super Kitties. This isn't Spidey and Friends. Okay, so this is more just an unfortunate reality, and it's when you have 2. The dad move is that whatever you think that your kid is going to enjoy, you have to get 2 of them. If you have 2 kids, because what happens is even if they're not into it, like for example, Nora is very into Spidey and Friends, which means that Jake is now also into Spidey and Friends, even though he doesn't care. He really doesn't care. But I went out and I got her a car when I was at Target, and I neglected to get him one, and it was Meltdown. I got him something else, and it was Meltdown City, because whatever one has, the other one has. So my big advice is do not assume that they can share, and always get 2 of everything, whether it's a cookie, whether it's a toy, whether it is a t-shirt. You gotta go. Everything go. It's like Noah's Ark. Everything has to be in pairs.
You would think, by the way, this is worse with the younger one than the older one. I've kind of seen the opposite, where my daughter will actually have a bigger meltdown if my son has something that she wants versus my son, she having something that my son wants, and basically the same kind of thing. So I don't know. I don't know what your experience is, Adam. Maybe it's different for everybody, but I've been surprised that when your older kids end up sometimes throwing the bigger fit than the younger.
Nora throws her fits about random stuff. She's actually really like, Jake's meltdowns are like Jake's in the mine phase. He's 2, and so he's like mine, and she went through that, but she's very good at sharing with him. He is not good at sharing with her. Like, if he'll come over and he'll see that she has something, and he's just like, it's like looks like it's about to become a prison riot. Like, he just grunts at her and grabs it, and then she's like, fine, and just walks away. And he does it with like a pacifier in his mouth. He just stares at her, just like moves on, and like walks away and just stares. But yeah, she's good about it. She's always been very good about it. He's just a menace. Hope he's gonna be a good pitcher. All right. So this was solid. Again, we will be back on Friday afternoon. We're gonna have Colby Marchio here again. We're also gonna maybe try to figure out a way to do a home run contest with a lot of other people, because as we're getting into hitting weather. But we will do that. It is Memorial Day weekend, so I'll try to figure out stuff around that, something that everyone can listen to in the car. So anyway, for CJ, he's at Dad's That Bet. Spencer is at Spencer_Ray. Ray is RAY. Follow us if you're listening to this, it's at Dad's Bet Baseball. You can like us, subscribe to us, leave comments. You can actually leave comments on Spotify, but we would love all the 5-star reviews. We'd even love the 4.5-star reviews. So give us all that and do it because we asked you. You're not getting anything in return. We don't have t-shirts yet. And go to Hall of Fame Bets and download it using our code DADS. Catch us this week. This was awesome. CJ, what's the last word?